The bow and arrow is one of mankind's most ancient weapons, and across the globe its size, shape and design is morphed depending on the culture and the environment it evolved in. Inspired by some historical and fictional designs, I wanted to create a historical short bow survival system. A bow you could realistically use in a survival situation, but short enough to fit on my bedroll. Super portable, quick to deploy, easy to make, and most of all, fun to shoot. In this video, I'll do a rundown of the system I've made so far and look at cultures that use similar sized bows. I'll test and compare a few different arrow types and different shooting styles, as well as discussing its pros and cons and room for improvement. So, stay tuned. If you're a learning addict like me, you've got to check out the Great Courses Plus. Think of it like the Netflix of learning, a subscription-based, on-demand video learning service. And through your subscription, you get access to a massive library of over 11,000 video lectures about pretty much anything you can think of, from science, history, philosophy, learning a new language or instrument, you name it, the Great Courses Plus have probably got it. Lectures are given by experts in their field from Ivy League universities or organisations like National Geographic, and new content is released monthly. What I really like about it is you can download the audio of the lectures to your device so you can get that knowledge bomb fix when you're on the go. Some interesting courses I'm doing at the moment are Cooking Across the Ages, where you follow actual historical recipes from the Vikings, ancient Rome, China and many others. I'm also doing one called The Celtic World, which looks at the history of the Celtic people from the first observations made by the Romans and Greeks all the way to when the first Scots and Irish emigrated to America. So you can try it out for free by going to www.thegreatcoursesplus.com/Fandabi Dozi, or click the link in the video description and start learning today, because knowledge is power. Hi folks, Tom from Fandabi Dozi. Thanks for tuning in. So before I jump into the rundown of my short bow archery system, I want to give a bit of context to explain my thinking behind it. So basically, I've always loved archery. I think there's some sort of primal instinct within us that makes it so fun. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I made my first yew longbow. And I've got a video on how I made that, and you can go check that out if you want. And it turned out pretty well, considering it was my first bow. It was shooting about 70 pounds draw weight, shooting really accurately. Pretty happy with it, but it had its downsides, you know, hence the name. It's really long, it's taller than me, so it's not exactly portable. So I wanted to make a different archery system with a different criteria. I wanted to make something much smaller and portable, so I could stick it in a bedroll or just down the side of a modern backpack. I wanted something in a protective case. I wanted something easy to make, both the bow and the arrows. I wanted the arrows cheap and easy to make, so it's just not a big deal if you lose or break them. Wanted something quick to deploy, so you know, if I'm out teaching clients and you've got a bit of time to spare to entertain them, I could just, you know, whap out the bow and we can do a bit of target practice, some stump shooting. And although I wanted something small, I still wanted it powerful enough so that in theory you could still use it as a survival bow to hunt small game. In terms of portability, I first thought, can I make something similar to a modern takedown longbow where the limbs come off and the arrows unscrew in half, stuff like that. But then I quickly realised that it doesn't come under the easy to make criteria. So I knew the bow itself had to be short. Now my next question was, how short a bow can I get away with while it's still being powerful enough to use as a survival bow? So I was looking at my historical bedroll system, which you maybe seen me use and camp out in some of my past videos. And I thought, right, there's a sort of a size to aim for, something not much bigger than that would be ideal for portability. And then it reminded me of something, haven't I seen a short bow on like a bedroll system before? Aragorn from the first Lord of the Rings movie. I think he only uses it once in the Mines of Moria. But yeah, that was a short bow on his sleeping system. So I thought, right, that's a good sort of size to aim for. So a bit of Googling, how long is Aragorn's bow? People estimated around 3 foot long. So I'm like, all right, okay, that's pretty short. But is that realistically powerful? Obviously, he managed to kill an orc in the movie, but can you use that in real life? So a bit more Googling, seeing if there's any cultures use a bow that size, and I found yes, a number of cultures used bows around that size, specifically some Western Native American tribes, and they were using them to hunt small game, but also using poison arrows to shoot larger game and in warfare. And there was actually an ancient bow found in a marsh in Northern California that was exactly 3 foot long. So I was like, sweet, now I've actually got some historical evidence of bows this size. So I dug out my old trusty book, The Bowyer's Bible, Volume 1, and found an entire chapter titled The Western Indian Bows, which shows many historical examples of bows from lots of different tribes, ranging in complexity of design. But I wanted something really simple, just a simple self bow made of yew, ideally. And I found an example on page 178 of a yew self bow from the Nootka tribe, which was just over 3 foot long. So this was going to be a rough guide for me to make. Right, I know, get to the point, Tom. So let's do a rundown of what I've made so far. So this is the bow case and the quiver together inside my historical bedroll system, just tucked inside the straps. But this can be just shoved down the side of a modern rucksack as well. So it can simply be untucked from the straps. Now the bow case and the quiver are made from traditionally tanned red deer hide. They're tanned with oak bark. In fact, it's the same hide I made my shoes out of. And then with a covering of beeswax and linseed oil mix to waterproof it. The bow case has got 2 straps in it that can be used to add a strap so the case can be carried by itself. But these straps also hold the quiver in place. So to get the quiver out, you just loosen those straps and pull it out like so. It has a little belt loop so I can attach it to my side for easy shooting. There's just a flap here to hold the arrows in place, which is held just with the belt loop. So I can easily open that up and have access to the arrows. In the bow case, there's just a simple strap to open up this flap. And as you can see, I made it so that the hair of the hide is in the inside to act like cushioning to protect the bow. I also put just some raw sheep's wool on either end of the case to try and cushion the nocks of the bow. So let's take the bow out. Now the bow is just a very simple yew self bow. Let me string it for you. As you can see, really tiny and nifty, but don't be fooled by its size. It's pulling about 70 pounds at 15 inches, so it's still fairly powerful. The piece of yew had seasoned for about 1.5 years, so really well seasoned, but not the best bit of yew. It had a number of knots in it and I had to put some reinforcements here for a crack forming. The handle is made from brain tanned red deer hide. Now the nocks in the Nootka bow were just carved out of wood, were just simple wood, but I wanted to add a bit of reinforcement, so I wrapped the nocks with some nettle fibre and then some pine pitch glue, which worked for a bit, but unfortunately it's quite brittle, so already it started to chip off a bit. So maybe I'll just take it off, or I might replace it with something like sheep's horn or something to protect it. The string is made from modern Dacron bowstring material because it's nice and easy, but eventually I'll probably make a primitive string for it. Right, now onto the different arrows I made. So because I have a bad habit of always losing arrows, I wanted my target practice arrows to be easy and cheap to make. So these are just made from hardwood dowel, you can get at the shops, cheap target points from eBay, and for fletchings, just skirts made from frayed paracord and attached with electrical tape. Now, although these are not as accurate as feathered fletchings, they do provide enough drag at the back of the arrow to stabilize it in flight, or at least well enough for a bit of target practice anyway. The bright coloured paracord also means that they're easier to find after shooting, and they don't get damaged like feather fletchings do. I also tend to carry paracord and tape in my modern pack anyway, so I can quickly make some practice arrows from sticks I find in the forest if I need to. Next one is a more traditional target arrow I made. Same cheap target points, but the shaft is made from natural hazel, which is lighter than the hardwood dowel, meaning it flies faster, and it also has more flex in it, which compensates for the archer's paradox, thus improving accuracy. The fletchings are made from pheasant quills with a slight torque in them so the arrow spins in flight. Next arrow is the same natural hazel shaft and feather fletchings, but with a broad head made from a teaspoon. Now this arrow I didn't make. It is a genuine arrow from the Maasai tribe of Kenya and Tanzania, and it's this short arrow, in fact the quiver of these short arrows, that partly inspired me to make this short bow survival system in the first place. The shaft material is unknown, but the fletchings are made from vulture feathers, which is pretty cool, and the tip is this nasty barbed iron head that the Maasai would sometimes cover in poison. Final arrow is an experimental primitive fishing arrow I made. Hazel shaft, barbed head ground from a horse mussel shell and fastened with spruce root and pine pitch glue. It has a twisted spruce root cord running the length of the shaft for a line and reel to be attached to allow the arrow to be retrieved after shooting. Now I won't be shooting this particular arrow today, but let me know if you're interested in me developing this archery fishing system for future videos. So how do these different arrows compare in a penetration test? Well, I wish I had some ballistic gelatin and a chronograph, but I don't. So I just made this test target from 10 layers of cardboard faced with a layer of dense foam sitting mat covered with 2 layers of duct tape. So hopefully this will at least give us a bit of a comparison. So let's get shooting. So shooting at about 8 meters, first up is a cheap and easy to make practice paracord arrow with target point, weighing 23.6 grams. Next is the traditional target arrow with the same target point but weighing 17.1 grams. Then my teaspoon broadhead arrow, weighing 22.8 grams. And last but not least, the nasty looking barbed Maasai arrow with vulture feather fletchings weighing 24 grams. Sweet, well I managed to hit the target. Let's take a look. As expected, the cheap hardwood target arrow only just poked through the back of the target, probably because of the heavier shaft and the paracord skirt causing a bit too much drag in flight, so really slowing it down. Whereas you can see the lighter traditional target arrow, even though it's got the same point, went further because it's flying much faster. The broadhead sliced easily through the target and actually buried itself into the root wall behind the target, so probably could have kept on going if it wasn't for that. The Maasai arrow also went easily through it, and you can just see how nasty these soft iron barbs are as they sort of deform a bit and catching things, so the arrow is really difficult to get back out again. There we go. Now let's look at different shooting styles. Now if you're like me and you're used to shooting longbows, a short, heavy draw weight bow like this actually takes a bit of getting used to. The way I found easiest to shoot this so far is a sort of push-pull draw action, releasing the arrow as soon as you've drawn it, flicking the bow forward so the arrow doesn't deflect off the bow. Shooting the arrows from the quiver and the hip is really comfy, but I can also hold 3 or 4 arrows in the bow hand, which increases the rate of fire slightly and means I don't need to wear a quiver that sometimes gets caught on vegetation and things like that. Now the shooting style I'm most practiced with is what you could call the European style, where the arrow is placed on the left of the bow, resting on top of the hand, and the string is drawn either with 1 finger above, 2 below, or as I prefer, 3 fingers below. Now this style allows you to look down the arrow when aiming, and allows better purchase on the string, which is easier for a heavy draw weight bow. Now some Western Native American tribes who shot bows of this size developed another method, generally called the Indian pinch grip, where the arrow is placed on the right side of the bow, resting on the middle finger of the bow hand. The thumb comes around the string and under the arrow and is held down with the middle finger. The knuckle of the forefinger then rests on the arrow nock, holding it in place. The shot is released by relaxing the middle finger of the string hand, and the bow is allowed to rotate forward, stopping the arrow from deflecting off the bow. Now I would need to practice a lot more, probably on a lighter draw weight bow, to get any good at this method. So what about its pros and cons and its room for improvement for this historical shortbow survival system? Well, let's talk about its disadvantages first. Obviously because of its size, its short limbs, its short draw length, there's a limit to its power and range of effectiveness. Also, to make up for its short draw length, I've had to make the poundage of the bow quite heavy, which then makes it harder to shoot, more tiresome to shoot, a bit more painful on your fingers. But what about its advantages? Well, it met all the criteria I was wanting. It's small, it's compact, fits on my bedroll easily, it was easy to make, it's fun to shoot, and with the right arrow combination, I think it's definitely powerful enough to hunt small game, which in certainly a solo survival situation is really the only sort of meat source you're going to be going after. Now another thing I really like about this shortbow system is its efficiency on resources. Now some of you might know that it's surprisingly difficult to find a good bit of wood to make a bow out of, because you ideally want to have a piece with as straight a grain as possible, with as little or no knots or cracks or imperfections in the grain, which even if you're in a heavily forested area is surprisingly difficult. Now, obviously, the longer the bow you're trying to make, then you've got a bigger area for that grain to start to twist, or for knots or imperfections to be in it. But for a short bow, it's much easier to find a suitable piece of wood. And same goes with the arrows. It's much easier to find, you know, a straight sapling, straight coppice that doesn't need a lot of work to make a decent arrow, which is going to save you time in the long run. It's also, you know, more sustainable in a way. If you're trying to make a big longbow, then you might have to actually cut a big branch or cut the entire tree down to try get a suitable stave. Whereas a short bow, you know, you can just take a side branch, a small branch off the tree, and therefore you're not killing the tree, and that resource continues for future generations. Of course, there's always room for improvement. I could sinew back the bow, which would help increase the efficiency. I could also add small recurves to the tips, which would increase the speed of the shot. I could also make a slightly sort of bigger quiver to allow me to carry these feathered fletching arrows, more feathered fletching arrows without damaging them. But all in all, pretty happy with it, does the job. So thanks so much for watching, folks. Really hope you enjoyed this video. Huge thanks to the Great Courses Plus for sponsoring this. Definitely go check out that link, guys. It is a really good learning resource for tons of stuff. Huge thanks to all my patrons. You guys really do help keep this channel going. Keep an eye out over this coming month. I'm going to start selling some crafts, some ski and do knives and other things on my website, tomlanghorn.com. So I'll keep you guys posted on the channel, but also on my Instagram and Facebook, which the links are below. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Cheers.